Thanks for checking out this video where I am going to unbox the Proxxon MF70 Micro Mill. Jedi Arms Dealer is going to guide me through installing all the parts onto this drill and getting it going. And we're going to make our first cut in this video. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed and force push that thumbs up button. Let's glow! This thing helps you make lightsabers. What parts can it make?
I mean, for me, it's the chassis beast. So any type of like copper tubing or aluminum tubing or brass tubing, you can go in there and do harp style chassis designs where you're cutting out all the intricate windows and little dots, and right down to even custom cut it. You know, you can print a 3D part. Let's say you need that 3D printed chassis to just have a hole in this exact specific spot. Like that's how it's so easy to do it with something like that. It ain't your grandpa's drill press because it's such a controlled drilling, not like a drill press where, you know, it's a little, the type of milling bit on it is really different from a drill bit. The way that it cuts the material and shaves it out of the way. When you see the bits, you'll see what I mean. But for me, yeah, it's all about the chassis. Now I've done some modifications to like thinner hilts with this machine, but it's really made for more smaller, intricate type building and design and stuff like that. I think I told you we were talking before about how somebody built a miniature steam engine for a train with this thing.
I love that. I love that story when you were telling me.
Yeah, and they put water in this little HO scale locomotive and like fired it up, and off it went on steam power because they engineered and designed this miniature tiny steam engine. So like that's the kind of super crazy stuff you can do with it. But for you and I, you're just once you get into it, it's just gonna blow your mind, the stuff that you can do with modification to shrouds, emitters, speaker pommels, you know, all metal, all beautiful, perfect, intricate, you know, digital style looking hole patterns when you're done. And then one day the dream is to CNC it, where you attach motors to it, connect it to your computer via USB and program it to do whatever you want. Just sit back and watch it chew up metal. But I haven't gotten there yet. I'm too busy having fun with it manually. Yeah, speaking of that, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, let's see this ad you pulled up. I saw, what is that, your Amazon shopping cart?
Yeah, I wanted to just go over like the stuff that I got. So I'm here with Jedi Arms Dealer. I'm SpaceWindu. He gave me the lowdown on this set, which is Proxxon Micro Mill MF70. So it's really, the model number is 37110, right? Micro Mill MF70, motherfucker 70. So, and there's a couple other parts. So there's a machine vise for it. And
SpaceWindu would be proud.
How big is that? Like, how big is the machine vise? Is that the thing that came in the little box?
Yeah, it's tiny. It's tiny. You can chuck the tiniest things in there.
And the milling cutters. So those were the things that it seemed, not only that you had sent me that, but also other people, you know, when it says on Amazon, like what other people bought with this, those were the things that people bought with it as well.
Yeah. There it is. All the way from Germany.
I love the stuff Germans make. German cars, German tools.
That's part of the milling bed. You're going to bolt that to the main machine. Yeah, this thing's been super robust for me for a year, and I have beat the living crap out of it. I've broken some bits. I've had a great time learning how to use it. Oh, I'm so excited you got one. That is just awesome.
Okay, so this is the machine. It weighs probably 20, 30 pounds, would you say? It's pretty heavy. They say the top is like cast iron, the rest is aluminum, die cast aluminum.
That lays flat on the main milling machine, gets bolted down.
Is this the type of thing that could make the like the blade plug, or not the blade plug, but maybe a blade plug for a lightsaber, or the thing that like held Daria's blade in? Is this what you made that on?
Yeah, well, I did his blade plug on that machine, where it has like larger holes around the outside, and then they get smaller and smaller as they go to the center. And then I've even taken super tiny, almost like like I have like these gold plated kind of conical looking rivets, and I've actually figured out a way to chuck those in there and then rotate them incrementally and like cut these super tiny grooves all the way around in a pattern to make it look like it's this weird conical gold gear. I've done things like that where you just get all microscopic on it and put on the grandpa glasses and get in there and have fun.
This is so that's smaller than I realized.
Yeah.
Was. Even though the box is quite compact, this is very compact but very strong feeling. I thought I would actually need more room to use this.
Nope. Micro Mill, the chassis chewer.
Okay, so I've got that out. There's a couple small parts here too. This is the wrench. I guess a couple screws for the bed. I'm not sure. Now that's all that was in the main box. We have the machine itself, something that came along with it too, right? This is something that I needed.
Just a simple vise to hold, small tubes, small parts. That thing's a little lifesaver if you don't want to have to hassle with chucking it into the dividing head. That thing's cool. So once you get it all out, I'll kind of like tell you how I've set mine up. That's been a pretty cool time saver. So how you've got that the kind of long bed that has the two wheels, the increment dial wheels on it. Yep.
Yeah, this right here.
Yeah. So at one end of that, because that vise will bolt into those track grooves on the top of that to make it rock solid. And then your dividing head will also bolt into those like train track looking grooves on the top of that. And so I'll put the vise at one end and the dividing head at the other. And all I do is like slide them back and forth using the wheels to use one or the other. That's how I have mine finally set up. I did that like recently.
Got some little screws and bolts.
Yeah, that bolts it down to the table. Yep. That's it. Little tiny vise.
This also feels very, very tough and heavy.
Solid steel.
They give you this nice box for it that I guess I put this in. Is this something that it's going to attach to the machine? I'm going to leave it there all the time, or I need to put it back in the box?
I have both of mine bolted to the top permanently. The only time I haven't touched the vise in like a year, but the dividing head, you can mount it horizontally or vertically. So you'll need to unbolt it to change its position, depending on if you're doing vertical work or horizontal work on the dividing head.
So now, like, what kind of person would want something like this that was, how long do you think they should be doing lightsabers for? Because we're kind of talking specifically about like lightsaber makers, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
Like, is this for a beginner, or this is for somebody that is like knows they're gonna be into building stuff? Like, who would you say this is for?
I mean, if I'm talking about my personal experience, I started off with kind of using the TCSS system, and I was ordering the metal and the acrylic chassis discs and putting those on the 440 rods. That's how I started in this whole thing. Then I bought a laser cutter, wanted to wrap my head around like making the acrylic chassis discs myself, because I wanted to get very specific. I didn't want to just have chassis discs for a Graflex, or I wanted to be able to do it for any saber. So I dove down that rabbit hole. It took a good year and a half to get the acrylic cutter doing crazy stuff, hence Glass Flex and all that came out. So no, I would not recommend this for a beginner. I think that people, in my opinion, need to get their feet wet with either like the chassis disc and 440 system, or 3D printed chassis, get their feet wet wiring and soldering, putting batteries in chassis, and then once you feel really comfortable with pre-made chassis, then this thing is a great purchase to jump in and start literally making chassis from scratch out of raw metal. So that's the beautiful thing about that machine, is just being able to manipulate copper, brass, aluminum, however you want. Now it'll do steel, but you have to go super slow and use a lot of lubricant.
Yeah, because this machine is like many different speeds. It's not just like my drill press, which I've been using for the past 10 years to make sabers, where there's just like one speed on that, I think. This one has like many speeds, or it's high speed.
Yeah, and there's a little chart on the side that'll show you like what metals you're cutting and what speed you should be at.
Oh, I see that. Steel, cast iron, aluminum, and brass, different numbers.
Yep, but you're going to want to go real slow on that machine, because the bits, as well as they chew through aluminum, if you go too fast, you can snap them. And you'll start to memorize the tone of when you're going too fast. You'll feel it. Your cuts won't be as clean if you're going too fast. And your bits will last longer if you go slow. So it's a patience machine for sure. But the end result is, you know.
It's like I'm wondering where to mount it. I see that there's these mounting screws.
Yeah, so the table sits on there horizontally, forward wheel facing you. So you'll have I believe on your right, and then the other wheel should be right in front of you when you go to mount it on top.
I see. I think I can move part of the tray away so that I could screw in the table here.
Right. Yep. You're getting it. To expose the holes. Are the instructions in German? I forget.
Well, there's only one page that shows this, like what to do. So I'm trying to like decipher this.
Okay. Yep.
This diagram. Yep. The rest is just text.
That's right. I'm pretty sure it's just 4 bolts that go straight down to hold that platform on. Yeah, most everything you do that like locks it down bulletproof style is going to be Allen head. Yeah, you'll probably want to get once you get them seated in there, you'll probably want to get a regular like angled Allen and give them a good snugging. Not too crazy, but you definitely want it to be, nothing moving while you're cutting. No wiggle.
Yeah, I can tell that this is very solidly built, and I'm so super excited about that aspect of it.
Yeah, there's some cheaper ones out there, 100, 150, almost 200 cheaper than that one. But you read the reviews and they're not, steel where the parts count, steel components, good motor. The variable speed is pretty lame. The RPMs don't go quite high enough. So I researched the heck out of it, and then I backed it up with a Saber builder that was using one of those all the time, and he was like, yeah, in my opinion, this is the one to get. I was like, okay, cool. That confirms my purchase.
Yeah, and then you introduced me to the machine, and anything you say is gold in my book, so I was like, oh, let's try that. But like you said, you have to be pretty into hobby stuff that this machine is for, because it's pretty pricey. It's it was I guess $400 for the machine, and then $100 or so for the extra bits that you need.
Yep, and then every time you break a bit, you got to buy a new set. And they're what, $35 now per set? You get 3 different sizes.
I think I got the set of 3, which are around here somewhere.
As long as you take it slow, they last a long time. I've really only ever broken 2 bits in the last year from milling straight down.
What's the difference between the bits for this versus something else?
Well, a drill bit, it's all about the tip, because like on a drill press, you're drilling down. It's all about how sharp it is right on the very end, right?
Yeah.
And then the flutes in there to clear out the whatever, metal, sawdust. Whereas with these, be really careful with them because they are razor blade sharp on the sides.
Oh.
Yeah, and so you can go super slow straight down like a drill press. That's milling down, but you have to go really slow. But the beautiful thing about them is when you go sideways, those razor serrated edges just chew off the aluminum or whatever, brass, or it's crazy. And it takes a long time for them to dull.
It sounds like this is great for doing the like slots on chassis bits and such.
Yeah, even emitters, you can get in there, you know, with like the one that you showed me, the Saber you're working on now, where you had, didn't you like hand drill and make some slots on the emitter type of thing? You had a file, and yeah, those days are over, man.
Okay,
you won't have to file and file for days to get those windows to look perfect. You can knock that whole thing out in, you know, a few hours.
You can knock that whole thing out in,
you know, a few hours. A few hours.
This was a part of making Skywalker lineage Saber, also a part of making Brad Saber.
Once I got to Daria's, and you had sent me that the illustration that you did of the crystal chamber that had the crystal chamber windows that mimicked the control box. I was like, there's no way I can do that on my sloppy, cheap mill on the drill press. I gave it a shot. In the photos, there's actually the before I got the micro mill and then the after. It's night and day.
Oh, so this is relatively new to you then too, because you've been building Darius Saber for like no more than a year. So this is pretty new to you as well. Okay, I didn't know. I thought you were using this for like many years. Okay.
No, it's only been about, well, I'd say it's been a year and a few months that I've had it. But Daria's build was the one where I made the decision. This crystal chamber is never going to look as clean as it could without this machine. And so that thing just made it look, you know, it makes the cuts look flawless. There's no filing really to clean anything up after the fact.
Wow.
You cut and it's done. Like, yeah. Because I was old school like you, where I was just getting in there with hand files and that edge looks rough. Let's just eyeball it and spend an hour on it, and oh, that looks great now. Whereas I don't do any of that anymore.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm starting to see what you're on about this.
Yeah. Welcome to a larger world.
These are the parts that the bit goes into, right? I hope I'm not missing it, because it looks like one fell out. I'll have to look.
Or there might be one in the in the head already. Yeah.
And then there's this bag of bolts and stuff, which
that might be your hold downs. Or did you keep the bolts with the vise separate? Because you got bolts with that too.
Yeah.
So I put those with the vise. Here. Okay, cool. Keep those with the vise. I put mine on the left side because the dividing head for me works better on the right. So if you lay that on top.
Mount this like on this side, you're saying?
Correct. About an inch from the end. You're super close. About a little more. About an inch and a half from the end. About an inch. So basically you got these train track looking things, right, that run down the length of the aluminum plate. The nuts are going to go in that track and the bolts are going to go down. So the nuts slide into the track and the bolts go down into the nuts in the track. And then make sure some of the nuts have like a flat side and some of them have a curved side. You want to make sure the flat side is up when you slide it in the track groove. You got it, because it goes bolt head, washer, then vise, and then nut under the track. And then that bolt goes down in there, grabs the nut, pulls it up when you tighten it on both sides of the vise, and then boom, you're golden. And you don't really have to crank those bolts down too hard that hold the accessories on, like the vise and the dividing head, because it will flex that aluminum track, and it kind of makes it harder when you go to turn the incremental wheels. Sometimes it'll create a bow in the table, and you don't want that. That's how you know you've tightened it too hard. So just snug them down good, and they won't move, but not gorilla crank. They grab the nut down inside the track. That small Allen key is to adjust your table tension. It's tool time. SpaceWindu edition.
Like, does this get in the way of projects and you have to take the vise off sometimes?
It depends. It depends on how long of a piece you're going to want to manipulate with the dividing head. There's a bunch of different ways to bolt metal to that little table. I'm going to show you, in my opinion, the two most efficient ways to do it and work with it and rotate the incremental dividing head and do fun math and make cool symmetrical patterns. I haven't touched the bag of manual clamps since I bought it. Matter of fact, I used one of those steel, it's got like, looks like little stair steps on it, like one of the steel pieces. I actually used it on a Saber for bunny ears. I was like, oh, that's a cool looking bunny ear. I'm going to steal that from my micro mill and bolt it on the end of a Saber. Yeah, I put it on my buddy's rancor tooth Saber, and I was like, this is perfect. Yeah, I've tried other brands of the bits just to see. Like I bought like 10 at a time of the milling bits that'll, you know, do really decent side cuts. The Proxxon ones, I don't know. They got some extra pixie dust in them or something. They're like Pac-Man when it comes to aluminum. So basically that head works just like a Dremel, the way you chuck those in. Yep.
All right, so these are sharp. You're saying be careful with them. So let's take a look.
Eighth inch bits, they work just like and you can actually chuck those in your Dremel. Not that you want to cut your finger off, but.
Oh yeah, see the tip of these is flat and it's more like a cutter.
So instead of like a drill bit where it creates a cone shape once you begin to drill, that creates an actual flat spot once you start going down. But whenever you mill downward, you want to go super slow. And I'm pretty sure that the head that they put in the machine is the one ready to go for those. So you'll have two wrenches. You'll have a bigger wrench and a smaller wrench, and that's how you're gonna tighten those, or loosen it and then tighten those bits up in there, just like you would your Dremel. Only with the Dremel, you have the stop push pin. With this, you have two wrenches to, go counterclockwise and clockwise, opposite directions. This machine is mostly used for jewelry, from what I understand.
That's what it said, yeah, on the advertisements there on Amazon.
Space will be making some Game of Thrones memorabilia here before too long. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to be careful around those bits. I've sliced my finger open and my hand open like 3 times now. Had to run for the Band-Aids. Just grazing it, not even with it running.
Whoa.
Yeah. We're teaching you dangerous tools.
These bits that I got, number 1 and number 2 and number 3, are they also for drilling, or you're saying I don't want to really be drilling with these?
You can. You just have to go really slow. The beautiful thing about that machine is you can put a hole right where you want it. Like, it's not like a drill press where, you got to use a pre-punch and make sure your bit doesn't walk, and make sure it's, it's clamped it. I don't know. It's a totally different beast with like accuracy. But which one did you chuck in? I should have asked you that. The biggest one?
The middle one. Okay, I've got it plugged in. I can see that there is a speed setting on one side, and also the power button there. That's tightened in, because that's the first thing I check when I turn on my drills, to see that I tighten the bit straight.
No wobble.
So do you think I did everything right? Should I kick it on?
All right, so you got like a small scrap piece of aluminum tubing or aluminum anything you can chuck into the vise, and I'd start with the slowest speed, and then you can slowly crank it up and see exactly how fast this thing can go. Yeah, nice quiet motor.
Let's turn it up. Wow.
Sounds good. It's working!
It's working! It's working!
So on the side it says for aluminum it would be a 20, which is like the highest speed, and also for steel. Well, I guess it depends which bit, 1, 2, or 3 depends.
Yeah, I like to run it a little slower than full blown on aluminum. A couple notches down, because it really gets going.
Wow, it's nice, dude.
Real quick before you get started, grab the table and tell me if you feel like it has any wiggle when you grab it and like try to move it around.
The table itself?
Yes. Like because you see those Allen screws on the front of the table that have like hex nuts around them? They're like little black. Okay. Those are your tension adjustments. And so if those are too loose, your table will wobble. If they're too tight, when you go to turn that wheel on your right-hand side, it's going to be really stiff and hard to turn because, you know, they're dragging too much. I don't know. Mine was pretty well tweaked when I got it. But after I used it for a while, then of course you're going to want to, you know, readjust after you break it in. But I'm just curious how the table feels to you when you like.
It actually feels very firm to me, very solid.
Okay, next test then is to crank the wheel on your right and see how smooth that rolls. Does it feel like is the table moving nice and smooth, no resistance?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, both directions.
It's not the smoothest thing in the world.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be a little firm, but
okay,
if you're really having to struggle, then you're okay.
And I think you know, I will bolt this down to the table, but I'm gonna bolt it down to the table behind me. So just for now, for like the demonstration, I'm not bolting it to this table because I'm probably gonna put it somewhere else. So let's try the front. Yeah, the front I would say too. It's a firm wheel, but it moves accurately, moves smoothly.
And now let's do the Z-axis knob on top.
Oh, that one's the smoothest one, probably.
Okay. Now what happens if you grab the head and like try to move it up and down? Well, does it feel loose? Independent. There you go. Yep.
No.
Okay. Good. It looks like they tuned it pretty well before they sent it to you then.
I do see a thumb screw type of thing on the one side here.
Yeah, that's just extra security when you're going down type of thing. Kind of like a rough stop. If you really want to go slow, I actually use that a lot when because what'll happen is sometimes when you're not using that, you just barely need to tighten it, and it actually controls your descent into the metal.
I see.
Because again, the quickest way to break a bit is to go too fast using that knob right there, going down. That's when you're going to want to go nice and slow. The other ones you can go a little faster once you get the hang of it. So yeah, if you want to chuck something into that vise,
okay, let's see what I got here.
Get that bit close to your metal and let's see what happens.
Okay, I've got something. What do you think about this aluminum ring?
Yeah, which part of it you want to cut? Because that actually would be a better example for the dividing head because you could rotate it. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you can put it in the vise and just do some simple, back and forth type groove cuts, or you could stand it up long ways.
Yeah, because I was gonna put it in the vise like that way. And
there you go. Do that, and and you can just actually cut a groove right through it.
I have it like locked in and hovering over that. By the way, what is this slidey bit here? On the back of the machine, there's a bit that slides up and down like plastic.
You want to show it to me, Space? I don't know. We lift it up.
Slides up.
No, that's just to protect metal from getting into your. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a stop, and then it also keeps like metal from.
Gotcha.
But now I think you'll be fine with that.
Okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna make our first cut with the Proxxon Micro Mill.
Yeah, just remember to go nice and slow.
But I am gonna turn up the speed thing below 20, I guess. But
just back off from 20. Yeah.
So the idea on this first cut is to sink down into the metal and then to use the y-axis to push back or something to try to get like not only a hole but a line.
Slow and smooth.
Okay.
It's somewhat spooky the first time you do it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this thing likes to chew up metal. Just slowly. It's loud. Once it hits the metal. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, actually, I'm just rolling it with my hand as well, like this with my fingers.
Yeah, because you got it. When I first did it, I discovered you have a tendency to go too fast if you're trying to use that rod. It's not as accurate. So you got it. You got the action.
Is this the type of tool where you could get, sink deep into there and then do a turn?
If you get real good at rotating the X and Y axis wheels at the same rate, you can do 45s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's what I had to do with Daria's crystal chamber. Just figure out how to, calibrate my hands to where I could do a 45 on those chamber angles.
As I'm almost not doing it as fast as it wants to chew it because I could tell by the sound that it's hitting the metal, eating it, and then there's a silence where I haven't moved, fast enough to, as it wants to chew. But I'm getting used to it. Like you said, I don't want to break it on my first go. So. But I could tell by the sound that that's what's happening. Like right there, it chewed and then stopped because even though I'm turning it, it's not fast enough for it.
And learn that tone. And inevitably break your first bit eventually. You'll be like, okay, now I know what's too fast. Or not quite smooth enough. But if you're used to hand filing stuff for days at a time, I already know you got all the patience in the world for this. Is that a piece of shroud material you got?
Yeah, it's like a thin shroud material that would go over, I guess, like a V2 MHS maybe. It's like a thinner, smaller diameter than a MHS V1 type sleeve. A lot of my Saber stuff, people give me as a gift, so that's why I don't know the origin of it. And my friends bring me the parts, you'll send me stuff, or my friends will bring over parts, and that's why I don't know sometimes where it came from. So I'll show you what I did. I kind of went in, and then I turned, and we'll see if this, since I'm not wearing any gloves or anything, I'll be able to tell how hot this metal is. I don't know if it is or not.
It shouldn't be too hot, especially when it's thinner metal, but
oh yeah, it's not at all.
It cuts so clean that it doesn't. If it's heating it up a lot, then you know your bits are getting dull. I gotta see this bad boy. Look at you getting fancy right out of the gates.
I don't know if you
Oh
can tell.
yeah. Oh, look at you doing a lock system already.
Just
Dang,
that
Graflex.
bit. Yeah, like this would be cool.
Graflex
You know how
Inc.
like
be proud.
yeah, or like every kind of Star Wars design, you know, is like asymmetrical or something. So if you did those little bits kind of all around and had this as part of your
Yes.
chassis with some lights behind it or something, you know, this would be a cool
Oof.
crystal or the start of a, maybe something that held in a crystal chamber or something.
Now that's where the dividing head comes into play. That design you just did, let's say you wanted to duplicate that all the way around the diameter of the piece. The dividing head will let you do that down to the exact math. You did it though, man. Well done on your first cut.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good that you're babying it. You'll learn the pace after a while of like what it can take. The other downside to going too fast is it heats up your motor.
Oh,
especially when you
there's like
get out that
from the bit into the motor.
Yeah, depending on how thick a material you're going through. Like what you just did was pretty lightweight, and you're using the medium-sized bit. Once you go up to that biggest bit, and you start chewing through some, you know, quarter-inch aluminum, you just don't want to overtax it. That's the trick. Is slow cuts back and forth at the same groove.
Like pretend I'm a machine.
Correct. Exactly.
Like pretend I'm
yes.
like a computer.
Mm-hmm. Terminator style. So here's the dividing head. Same drill. I don't know if you got. Does this look familiar at all?
No.
Let me pull it out. Yeah, we got to get you one of these because this is the next step in your mathematical rotational, you know, type of cuts. So this guy rotates, and then here, let's see if the camera can pick that up. Here's your increments right there. I don't know if you can see the numbers going by. Okay, so you can chuck an aluminum tube into this right here, and then it'll be mounted on the tray like this, and so you can have a chassis sticking off of here, or a crystal chamber piece sticking off here, and then this rotates incrementally, and then you can mill lines, drill holes, and rotate this as you're rotating your crystal chamber.
Okay, that's what I need. That's what I need. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the fun, super fun stuff. I use both of them all the time, the vise and the dividing head. But this thing is crazy. So you can either grip it from the inside out with these teeth here by clamping it, and then these will move when you rotate it by tightening this wheel, and then you'll notice these will expand. See how those are opening up? That's how you grip the material from the inside. See how the hole's getting bigger in the middle? And then the other direction is how you release it. But the other thing about this is that you can flip each of these around 180 degrees. So each one of these will flip 180 degrees, and then you can clamp it from the outside or clamp it from the inside of your tube.
Wow, this opens up some possibilities.
Major possibilities, yeah.
That's important.
So,
okay, and you know what? I think you sent me that link because I do remember an eBay link now, but I don't think I purchased that.
If I take an entire chassis and I lay it horizontally and clamp it with the dividing head, like kind of like what I was just showing you. Let's say your dividing head's here and your workpiece is this way, and you're going to rotate it and make cuts on, say, a chassis this way, right? The dividing head. The problem I've been having is if I use something just like a crystal chamber, fine, I'm only coming out this far. But if I want to do an entire chassis, that's what, 3/4 the length of the interior of the Saber, it starts to, I don't know if I'm true horizontally. Right. So my new, and I haven't tried it yet, but I just got this new one, this new dividing head in the mail. I'm going to put another one on the other side. And then I can end cap them, and that makes sure that my workpiece is true and horizontal. Yeah, I've played with a couple of different things. I even 3D printed a couple of things, but the problem is every time you change diameter of that tube, that changes everything. Yeah. On your opposite end. So I was like, well, I'm just going to try another dividing head. and see if, I don't know, see if it works. Then I know for sure it's horizontal, because when I'm making, you know, cuts, they need to be perfectly straight when I'm doing
now,
channels.
This machine is a manual mill. Is there, would you buy a different machine altogether if you wanted to connect it to a computer to have it do the calculations and the maneuverings of the sled via computer? Was that a whole nother machine, or do you purchase devices that attach to this machine? Do you know that?
You'd purchase. Yep, you purchase. No, you wouldn't need a new machine. You could take that machine, remove the manual hand wheels, and buy motors that'll bolt right onto the end of those X, Y, and Z screws. You have 3 motors, 1, 2, 3, and then use software and use it with, like, you know, an AutoCAD program type of thing, and program it to do automated CNC work right with that little tiny machine. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's down the road. I'd like to learn it, but I don't have time right now. The dividing head. This is the thing that gives you accurate rotational increments, so that you can actually, like, use the math on this thing and, you know, divide whatever number into 360, and that's how many holes you want to go around the diameter, and that's where you stop on the increments. If you want eight holes around the outside of it, you divide 8 by 360 and start milling and rotate it's pretty cool.
Wow, I'm excited to use more of this machine. Thank you so much for introducing that to me and showing us all the stuff, you know,
you're gonna love it.
all the details that you know about and stuff like that. That's just that's powerful. Like, what you could do with it, it's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use it for like plastic stuff? Like, you put like a Delrin style chassis in there and start playing with it? You would? Absolutely.
Yep. The trick with Delrin or plastic or acrylic is that you want to go slow. You want your drill bit speed to be slow. If you speed it up like you just did with the aluminum, you speed it up that fast with acrylic, it'll actually melt the acrylic onto the end of the tip, and it's a bitch to get off the end of the tip, because it'll melt into a solid acrylic ball on the end of it if you start cutting with it. So you want to go super slow, and then, you know, with everything, your movements, your speed, you want to make sure it's cleaning out the acrylic, or it will rub it against all the shavings against one another, and it'll heat up and it'll make a ball of a mess. So that's the problem. That's the problem with acrylic. Wood, piece of cake. Wood will do it all day long.
Is Daria's Skywalker lineage saber the one and only saber that you've done, or can you think of another one that you've used?
Daria's is kind of like I used it the most on, but I'm over halfway through Jeff's LS6, and I used a copper tube for that, and I've done a ton of mill work in that, with little vents and even like mimicked, you know, the LS6 where it'll open, and it has the bay, that we call them the Bombay doors that open and close. I mean, the chassis is tiny. It's like just under an inch of copper tubing, and so I've done a lot of mill work on that. Oh, I did use it for my buddy's Ranker Tooth saber, because I didn't have access to the acrylic cutter during quarantine, and so that's where I learned that I could take existing solid discs that I'd already cut out with my acrylic cutter that were scrap, and I could go in and like make them exactly how I wanted for USB access, SD card access, right on those discs with the micro mill. So that's the other beautiful thing about it. I think I was telling you, like, at TCSS, you can buy the blank aluminum discs that have no holes. You can take that disc and make the end of it however you want for your specific soundboard and chassis.
The stuff we can make just for our hobby is awesome, but then you were saying sometimes you'll even make stuff for like around the house when you need a certain part for something. It may be better, or the only way to do it sometimes is to go to the micro mill. So that was also something else that I found interesting that you said about it, because I'm into, you know, home repair and doing stuff for around the house too. So that's pretty cool.
You'd be like, how can I get a perfect hole or a perfect pattern in that piece that I need to fix my dishwasher? Oh, that's right. I have a micro mill. Exactly. It's so weird because you can make whatever you want. I think I was telling you, you can even duplicate keys with it if you get the right attachments.
That's sick. That's so
Thing's
sick.
crazy.
Anybody want to see the projects that Jedi Arms Dealer has done, not only with this machine, but just overall his lightsaber collection and lightsaber work? Go to his channel, Jedi Arms Dealer, on YouTube. We'll put the link in the description, and you'll be able to see all this stuff. Like, do you have a video of the sabers behind you, or are you going to do a video of like your collection at some point?
I could do that. I got to get it. I mean, we just moved, so I got to unbox everything. I still have, boxes in the closet that need to get opened up, get the display cases set up, the glass ones. But that's a good idea. I should actually do a collection review. I'd like to see your collection review. That'd be awesome.
I want to do one too. I've kind of whittled it down to like, I think I have maybe like 8 sabers or less. So it like I could make, maybe spend more time with each saber going over them or something, telling, because there's like a story behind each one.
I go crazy on May the 4th sales and Christmas sales. Like stuff drops, almost half off at times, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need that to finish the trilogy collection kind of thing, and so that's how it started. Like if you want to do your own Graflex style even rivet holes around for the grips around outside of the hilt, you can do that now,
which I do.
No problem.
I love that. Yeah.
Yep. Math is all done for you, and
well, once I have that dividing head,
you're right.
It'll be better for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all steel, and they last forever, and all that, and it makes math fun.
Yeah, it's so cool. So I have been using this drill for approximately 3 or 4 months now, and I feel like I am really getting the hang of it. It is a lot of fun to use, and Jedi Arms Dealer is right when he says it chews through metal. It's an absolute beast when it comes to chewing up metal of all different sorts. So if you like that sort of thing, if you like to hobby and play around with metal cylinders and stuff, check out this drill. Special thank you to Jedi Arms Dealer for not only introducing me to this drill, it's a great tool, but also showing us every bit of it in this video. Thank you very much, my friend. This is going to open up a lot of possibilities in my saber building. Can't wait to do more with it. Thanks again. We'll talk to you in the next video.